Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
We welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Wednesday, February 2nd. I'm Gary Stevens. Very pleased to have Zeeland Public Schools join us on a regular basis to talk about what's going on in the district. And today we are joined by the director of Zquest, and I hope I don't butcher her name too terribly badly, Leslie Rindfliesch, or is it Rindfleisch?
It's Rindfleisch. You were very close.
Okay, I just didn't know if I had to put the Y or the I in it. But Leslie joins us from her office at Zeeland Public Schools. She is the director of Zquest. And if you have a question about Zquest in particular or Zeeland schools in general, Leslie would be happy to try to answer it for you at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. Leslie, first of all, tell us exactly what is Zquest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. First of all, this is a fantastic opportunity for me to be able to talk about Zquest. It's something that I'm super passionate about. I was able to help build Zquest from the ground up, and we just love what we're doing here in Zeeland. So Zeeland Quest is Zeeland Public Schools balanced calendar year-round school. So we operate on a calendar that looks different than our traditional buildings. We are in session about 6 weeks, and then we have a week off. So just to kind of give an example, we're actually heading into a break after next week. So we'll have the whole week of February 14th off. So that kind of just gives an example. So from returning in January from Christmas break gives us about 7-ish weeks, and then we have a break coming up here for kids to rejuvenate and relax, and teachers to do just the same. And some parents often ask, do you go to school more? Because we go to school in August and June, and the answer is no. We have maybe about 3 extra days in our calendar, not too many. And our summer hours look a little bit different at Zeeland Quest too. So we do have session in June and August. However, we have a shortened day from 8:30 to 2. And we also do not have school on Fridays. So we have that long weekend so families can do their camping, take those long weekend getaways that they love to have too. And then in July, it's what we call our transition month. So it's how we determine the end of one school year. And when we return in August, that's the beginning of our new school year. So quite interesting, a little bit different. We find that we're really hitting the ground running when we return. That summer slide is much less than what we might see after having 2.5 months off of school.
Let me clarify one thing quickly,
Sure.
Leslie.
Yeah.
Zquest is an elementary and middle school program. It's not for the high schools, right?
It is. Yes, that's correct. We are a K-8 school. So we have kinder through 8th grade. And then our 8th graders at the end of their year, they transition into Zeeland East or Zeeland West High School.
Now, talk a little bit about that transition for the 8th graders.
Sure.
Going from the year-round school back to a traditional calendar format. Do you have to do a lot of transition with them, or do they sort of take them to the deeper waters, shall we say, like a fish into water?
Yeah. They beg me to have a high school because they do, believe it or not, love their schedule. The other piece I think that they really love is that we teach using project-based learning too. So that's another thing where they're faced with real world problems every single day. And they're working collaboratively with each other to solve those problems, and they learn their essential standards that way. But the transition for 8th grade to 9th grade into the high school, it actually happens really smoothly. We're really, really lucky here in Zeeland. We have an admin team that works so close together. And so we've really worked hard to make that transition painless. A jump from a small school to a much larger school can be scary for teenagers, but they really do such a good job. And we have such caring people teaching and leading at our high schools too. So once they get in there and get their feet wet, they're okay.
Leslie, we were talking about maybe the adjustment from an 8th grade Zquest program to a traditional calendar for the high school. Has there been talk about possibly expanding Zquest to include high schools?
There was in the past. However, I think as we look forward, the number of opportunities at our high school in Zeeland definitely far outweighs what Zeeland Quest could potentially give students in terms of choices to take in college level courses, AP courses, things of that nature. So we're staying strong at stopping at 8th grade here.
Now, that leads me to the next question, Leslie, about Zquest. At first glance, and being as, maybe blissfully ignorant on this, one would think, based on our early part of our conversation, that it's only about scheduling. Zquest is more than just the scheduling, isn't it?
It is. Project-based learning is an area that we can really hit with students, and we as educators find that engagement is a huge piece with getting our kids ready for the future and teaching them skills for success for when they head out into the real world. And so project-based learning does just that. And so what that is, it is a teaching method that we use where students are given an opportunity to gain knowledge and skills by working to investigate and to respond to complex questions or problems or challenges. So really, they're given open-ended questions instead of those closed-ended questions, because we want them really to kind of dig into their depths of knowledge a little bit more and really become those critical thinkers and take it beyond just what a teacher might be facilitating with them. And they get the chance to do that working in collaborative groups together. We also want to make sure that we're giving kids flexibility and autonomy to make choices. And those choices come in how they solve the problem that they are presented with. And it looks different for every group. And it definitely looks different in kindergarten versus 7th and 8th grade. There's that gradual release that happens for that independence beginning around the 2nd, 3rd grade level, and it keeps continuing until 7th or 8th grade, and they are fully in charge of their choices and how their group works together, obviously guided by their teachers still, because we have those essentials that we need to make sure we're hitting on, and projects are created around those things as well. And then another important piece is we want to be able to give kids the opportunity to give feedback, but we also want to teach them how to receive feedback. And that's another skill out in the real world that our kids really need to learn. And so by having them receive feedback on the quality of work, it allows them to revise and create better solutions than maybe what they came up to originally. And then an authentic audience piece is another really important part of project-based learning. Instead of just presenting to my classmates, I'm getting out into our community. It reminds me of a PBL unit a few years back that our middle school teachers put together, and kids were designing what would happen to the old power plant. And so they met at the Holland Civic Center in one of the breakout rooms, and the mayor came, and that we just had a great presentation from all the kids showing what should happen with that plant. So
yeah, there's definitely some different ways of learning. One would think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Leslie, that the scheduling and what is being taught and how it's being taught, not only is it different from the traditional classroom setting, But to a certain extent, one would think, other countries are learning in this particular way. We're sort of bringing the overseas model into the classroom, into a situation such as Zeeland Public Schools with Zquest.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see project-based learning is definitely increasing across the state of Michigan. But we definitely see far more of it happening across the United States, more so in California area. And then you definitely see a lot of this type of learning based on some of my research in Finland. And so this type of learning is definitely seeping into classrooms. Even here in Zeeland, we have our teachers have great relationships as a Zeeland team. And so having other teachers try some of these methods is great. And our teachers love to discuss that and plan things with other teachers. It's what's best for kids at any given time.
Leslie, how long has this program been in existence, and how many students can be involved in it?
Yeah, it's exciting because this is actually year 10 for us. So in the world of education, relatively new still, even though 10 years seems like a lot. And students, we have a first come, first serve enrollment, and I'm glad to be here today because today starts at noon. Our link opens up for pre-admission. So you would just pop over to www.zps.org and click on the enrollment tab, and you'll see our Zquest pre-admission form that would need to be filled out today. And that link again opens up at noon. And then tomorrow begins our online enrollment. And so really that pre-admission link is important because that saves your spot in line. We used to have parents or families show up in the early morning hours, many of them back when we first started. We'd have long lines to be that first person in line and get a seat at Zquest. And as technology changed, we ended up doing this pre-admission online form, and it actually is working out really, really nicely. So there's not any of that sitting out in the elements trying to get a spot. You simply get online, fill that out, that time stamps and dates it for us. And that's how we fill our seats. Enrollment forms start coming in, and we fill them based on that pre-admission form that was filled out.
It sounds like it's a limited enrollment.
It is. We cap our K2 classes around 23, and it increases from that based on the district classroom caps. So really, if you're interested, give me a call. We can kind of talk through things, but you'll want to get in on that pre-admission link today when that opens at noon.
Okay, I'm just kind of getting an idea. You said first come, first serve, which means there's no pre-requirements like that you have to have certain types of learning or background, or as you get older, grade point average and stuff like that.
Nope, we accept everyone, all inclusive here. There are definite things that your learners will come out of Zquest with, and so you'll want to keep those in mind. We're really teaching our kids to be inquisitive, to be self-directed. Our students really thrive in small collaborative groups, and they also build an independence that allows them to work at their own pace. And that doesn't mean that they just get to do whatever they want and eventually they'll get there. It's all facilitated and directed by our great team. But some students need something a little bit slower, and some are ready just to take off and go. And those things we differentiate in order to meet our kids where they're at as kids.
Two more questions and then we're done with the segment, Leslie. First of all, for the students that are in the program right now, once you get in, you stay in, or do you have to re-enroll every year?
Once you're in, and your siblings actually get to fill seats first as the new year comes around. So I start usually in December figuring out who that is by sending surveys out to families so that I can fill those spots right away so that they're sure to have them.
Secondly, how has COVID and the fact that you've had some virtual learning situations back in, basically 2 years ago, and the challenges now, how has that affected Zquest?
I'd say likely the same as many school districts in the area. And we have families that choose a remote approach. So enrollment dipped down a little bit, and we are increasing now more than we have been, which is great to see. In terms of learning, I don't know, other than a change of where kids were learning from when we were shut down. A whole lot changed. Our teachers work really, really hard at maintaining PBL and breakout rooms via Zoom, and really just trying to keep those skills up for our kids. So there was definitely some dips, but we have a strong team, and we're intervening as needed and trying to make up for some of those losses.
One other thing, and I do want to bring this up real quick, schools of choice. How does that affect Zquest? Does schools of choice affect it at all? Or, hey, this is only for Zeeland Public Schools parents in this regard?
Yeah, great question. Nope, we do school of choice. So there's a school of choice application or out of district application on our enrollment website, and families just fill that out and submit that, as well as the online application, of course, after doing that pre-admission link.
So if you are interested in learning more about Zquest, the phone number that Leslie Rindfliesch has mentioned, 616 748 3050. 616 748 3050. Leslie Rindfliesch, thank you very much for joining us today on Talk of the Town. Hope to talk to you again soon about more successes with the Zquest program.
My pleasure. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Leslie Rindfliesch, on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.